Mr. Desmond Choo.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, thank you for allowing me to join the debate on this bill. Now, harmful content found online has proliferated with the expansion and pervasiveness of social media services in recent years. Bad or irresponsible actors have exploited the accessibility of the digital world to spread harmful materials. We are now in a world whereby the nature of harm to minors are vastly different. There has been a pronounced shift from physical to online dangers, but still leading to real and physical harm. As Honourable Member Mr. Alex Yam shared, the suicide of a teenager in the United Kingdom, Ms. Molly Russell, in 2017, is a stark reminder of the harms in the online world. At the coroner's inquest, it found that the harmful content Molly encountered on social media had played a contributing role in her suicide. Coroner Andrew Walker said images of self-harm and suicide she viewed shouldn't have been available for a child to see. Her death sent shockwaves across the UK and beyond, and the UK is now similarly considering a bill to the one that we're debating today. Now, according to Molly's father, Ian Russell, at the inquest, it's a world I don't recognize. It's a ghetto of the online world that once you fall into it, the algorithm means you can't escape it, and it keeps recommending more content. You can't escape it. The law must be strengthened so that our minors do not fall into this commercially driven quicksand. The proposed bill mirrors society's consensus. Social media services must take up more responsibility to protect people of all ages, especially minors, from harmful content. It provides for a calibrated regulatory approach by implementing a code of practice prescribed. SMSs must comply or face consequences, along with the authorities overriding or oversight to deal with egregious content. We are just one of the few jurisdictions in the world to consider codifying the responsibilities of these social media services. I believe that many other jurisdictions will follow in time to come. I'd like to offer a few areas for the Ministry's consideration to refine the bill and offer a few suggestions to the Code as follows. First, we need to refine Section A of the Code to implement a robust age verification system to effectively delineate the highest standard of responsibility social media services owe to minors. Now, the bill and the Code rightfully prescribes additional obligations to be undertaken by these services to prevent minors from accessing harmful content. Now, in practical terms, minors will be flagged out as minors by these services if the user input their ages to show that they're under the age of 18. With this, the services can then moderate the content shown to minors. My concern to this is that the current age verification process is very much circumventable. For example, what if a 12-year-old could falsely input their age as 21-year-old, hence they will not be treated as minor as far as the services are concerned. But in such an instance, it must also be the responsibility of the services to implement a secure age verification system. What are the standards required of the services for such verification? Now, in addition, would the Ministry also look into implementing a robust nationwide age verification system to ensure that the responsibility of services to children cannot be adequately effected in practice? Now, such nationwide age verification systems are currently being trialled in Australia, and perhaps something that we can also learn from. Next, on Section B of the Code. Section B of the Code of Practice states that there must be an easy-to-use mechanism for Singapore end users to report harmful content and unwarranted interaction. However, clauses which directly relate to a liability of the services arising from the failure to comply with user requests in the Code are not readily apparent. Will the Ministry establish an avenue for Singapore end users to report such non-compliance of the Code? Further, understand that even though the Code is still under review, Section B, which imposes obligations on the services to act on user reports in a timely manner, seems to leave some room for ambiguity. Could the Ministry elaborate on whether you will consider implementing an objective or specific time frame for the services to respond to user reports, and perhaps have different time frames that are proportionate to the nature of the harmful content identified? For example, the time frame for the services to respond to sexual cyberbullying content should arguably be done as soon as possible. Next, on the legislative provisions of the bill, under the proposed section 45E(1), where a service does not comply blocking directions, and proposed section 45N, which contemplates a situation where prescribed service does not comply with the code, the defaulting service may be liable to a maximum fine of up to $1 million. Now, for comparison, under the Privacy and Data Protection Act, the maximum financial penalty was increased to the higher 10% of organizations' annual turnover in Singapore, or $1 million, to send a stronger signal of Singapore's stance towards the importance of privacy and data protection. Now, I believe that online safety is equally important as privacy and data protection, if not even more. Now, even though both are crucial gears that must be safeguarded in the digital ecosystem, would the ministry thus consider increasing the maximum penalties that can be meted out under the bill? This would also give the ministry more flexibility in proposing appropriate penalties based on the non-compliance complained of. On a related note, the current penalties almost seems like a slap on the wrist compared to other jurisdictions. In the UK, the Online Safety Bill currently prescribes a maximum fine of the higher of £80 million, British pounds, or 10% of the defaulting services' worldwide revenue. And in Germany, the Network Enforcement Act prescribes a maximum penalty of €50 million. Now, Mr. Deputy Speaker, in conclusion, I believe that the bill will nonetheless make considerable strides in our efforts to protect our people against harmful content. The success of this goal will also be premised on contemplating a whole-of-society approach where our efforts to work closely with the community and industry stakeholders to equip Singaporeans with the knowledge and skills to keep themselves safe online. This remains a key piece in the journey. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I support the bill.
Order. I propose to take a break now. I suspend the sitting and will take the chair at 3:30 p.m. Order. Order.